Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, Deep Space Nine again, it's Rivals. Deep Space Nine Rivals on It's All Been Checked Before. We're not going to talk about our rivals. You know them. You know all the Star Trek, other Star Trek podcasts. But if you want to take on our rivals, become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/IABD. Get all the bonus stuff. We got bonus episodes coming up fairly soon. And, you want to be in on that. And you can see the video. And you can get It's All Been Done Radio hour content. Not to mention lots of other cool stuff when you sign up. Check out, we have new tiers. They're new enough now. And then you can come with us as we take on our rivals and we take on Deep Space Nine rivals this episode on It's All Been Trekked Before.
To another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here. Despite the fact that they are rivals with one another for your attention. And none of them want to speak up because they're all rivals. Jerome here, all by myself, apparently.
I am the unrivaled Keith.
Sorry, this is Steven. Feels really weird to do them in the wrong order. But
yep.
We're here to talk about the Deep Space Nine episode Rivals. I was jumping right. Yeah, I was jumping right to first impressions. I was like, Keith, go first. I was like, oh, wait, why did I even do that? But now we are. Yeah, first impression.
I think Steven should go first.
Mine would be, there's a lot of fun elements of this episode, but there's a lot of not fun to me that maybe were meant to be fun. Definitely a lot of interesting things. This might be even less than the sum of the parts than last week. I get maybe not, because there's a lot of parts I did not like about this. So there's a lot of talented people involved, which helps keep it afloat. Things I like casinos and stuff like that. And we get to my alternate episode. That's the thing I wanted to see, and that I enjoyed. Maybe the best Cake O'Brien things ever so far, and yet still a lot of We'll get into Bash O'Brien, which I did not care for, but those are a lot of first impressions. So, oh no, I made it sound like even, but Bash O'Brien's a major part of the series going forward, much more prominent than Cake O'Brien. I think I will enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it here. I think I enjoyed both those characters. I did not enjoy the way it got mushed together in this one. Maybe it wasn't the two of them, but more their storyline. Okay, because this was kind of like the storyteller part 2, where we put them back together. And Bashir wants to be his friend so bad, and O'Brien is not resisting. But that's true. Yeah, their friendship. I did one of the key elements of the series. Yeah, and maybe I just did not enjoy that storyline, and they're getting hit with that brush. Although Cake O'Brien does not. So. Well, once she was supportive, and he wasn't such a great spouse. Keiko was delightful this episode. Yeah, she was.
That's funny.
My first impression was, I would say I'm not going to say anything about the sum of its parts because I think its parts weren't as strong. And the Bashir O'Brien thing's just getting off the ground. I thought the O'Brien-Keiko relationship was in a way we've never seen it before, which felt weird, even though it was also, I don't know. But it was fine. It's certainly going to be as lower for me than last week, probably. Not great. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Keith. I'll get back to that.
No, similar. I just, I did appreciate the O'Brien and Bashir things. Well, it's simply because of just you could see by the end the sort of affection involved in that, and I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to really elaborate just yet. I feel both their hearts were in the right place in some of the parts, but I'll wait on that. Just overall, it was kind of fun that they were trying to do the rival pairing, I guess, as far as the theme of the episode, pairs of rivals, and mashing them together. The first thing that occurred to me was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I brought up not too long ago because people were asking about their favorite comedic performances and so forth. And that movie jumped up in my head. I remember liking that a lot when I was younger, when it first came out, and just watching it a lot. Was on, I had like a VHS copy of it and so forth. It felt like they were about ready to go for something like that. There are some nice little charming moments where, you see that. And I kind of like the way that little bit of it wrapped up, or kind of wrapped around on itself. But the rest, it was one of the other elements that I would have liked, but it strained credibility for me in this world, was the idea of the whole neutrino thing. Well, that was eventually how they described it. Right. But one of my favorite concepts from, I guess it would technically be literature, right? I don't know. The Douglas Adams series, Hitchhiker's Guide. Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah. the ship, the one of the main ships for the, really the thing that the series centered around, the powerfulness of it, was it ran on the improbability drive. I can't remember if that was the exact name they used for it, but essentially it ran by bending probability to make certain things happen around it, and then that was the warp system for propulsion. They would just we need to get from point A to point B. It is this unlikely to get from point A to point B, so therefore we need to bend probability to the point where we will get there quicker, and in the wake have all these things that would be the exact level of probability happening or improbability happening, like as a side effect.
And I guess, I wish maybe I knew of that, because I don't know, maybe it gets into this fantasy science fiction thing we talk about all the time. Because I'm like, if you told me that the Force was doing these things, I might be like, okay. But if you tell me like this thing can change probabilities, I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
How is that thing affecting whether this Met's going to hit a home run or whatever, that kind of,
or someone's going to trip.
Yeah. So I definitely got into I'm very serious about my Star Trek, even in the middle of a fun when I think it was a fun episode. I didn't like, that.
No, I'm with you. I think that's what I needed to probably get the words around or to process in my head there. It's just, I felt like I needed a better, there had to be another way to get to that than that. I mean, there had to be a way to explain how that could produce that, because the problem when you deal with improbability and things like that, especially when you start bringing in the human element of something like a match, that requires some sort of intention on the part of these particles, or it has to understand the significance of good luck versus bad luck when it comes to something like that, and that's a much higher level concept than
Yeah, and I guess if it was more of that kind of thing of like the concept of a cooler in a casino, and he's the guy who cools down a hot table, or like maybe I referenced on this podcast before. My friend Richie used to be the guy who's like if he was sitting with us, he was the guy losing all his money, and we were all essentially his money was just coming to the rest of us, so we were winning money and he was losing his.
Right.
That's changed since then, which is good. But if there was some kind of again, I'm going to use the Force because, it is a fantasy magical kind of thing without getting into the religious aspects or whatever you want to get into about that. But if it was something like that, that's kind of bending or affecting people's minds. So, maybe that's why the people that throw bad money after good, or good money after bad money, are people that somehow they're being controlled, or that Force is acting upon. That would make me feel better, or that I would probably feel better about it. But just like, well, it's just changing the odds. It's like, no, it has to change something else. But
right. Self-sabotage, because the odds of some. I can see. All right.
I can tell you this: as soon as they introduced that concept, the probability of me liking this episode
went down.
So it worked.
Yeah, me too.
So let's take the example of like a roulette table. So. Each one of those individual numbers is as unlikely as any of the others. If you say that you're changing the odds of something, so then would have to hinge upon what the results of that would be, positive or negative, for the people participating. Is it going to be something bad for the owner of the establishment? Is it good for one person playing? Are they all picking the same number? It would have to be. Then you have to weight the probability on to something even more unlikely to group it. It can be something that, I guess, if you have one type of device you're using in the entire casino, something that looks like it was supposed to act as some sort of like slot machine, for lack of a better analogy, right? Were they just playing these things? What were they gambling on? Did they say?
It was a little bit everything, but
some type of currency, but they didn't really go into it.
Those devices were kind of like slot machines, but kind of not.
Right. He said he made bigger versions of them. And I guess people were playing them like, am I going to win or lose thing? And it was just, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's jump to the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
So we meet these two characters talking in a bar. Their names are Martis Mazar and Alcia, where Alcia, played by Kay Callan, who I mentioned, I think, briefly, best known for Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, where she played Mrs. Kent, as well as the movie Knives Out.
Oh,
and go.
Yeah.
She has 148 credits. She was recently in an episode of Poker Face, still extremely active. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Justified, etc., etc. Just one of those great character actors. Sadly, this is her only track credit. And then
I highly recommend Poker Face. I know we've talked about it on here.
Still haven't seen that. I need to. Yeah. But then Marcus Mazar, played by somebody perhaps even better known, Chris Sarandon, who's best known for The Princess Bride, where he played Humperdinck, as well as The Nightmare Before Christmas, where he voiced Jack Skellington. IMDb only has him known for the Nightmare Before Christmas, which is crazy to me because, of course, Princess Bride should be right up there.
And he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor Oscar for Dog Day Afternoon. So, yeah, I wrote down...
It's also his only track credit.
I wrote down immediately like Chris Sarandon. I was like, wait a minute, am I wrong? No, that has to be Chris Sarandon. Fright Night also. Did we say Fright Night? Is that not on there?
No, I didn't say, because they only have Nightmare Before Christmas listed on IMDb for Best Known. I don't know how he doesn't have 4 Best Knowns when he has 103 credit and people with 6 credits.
His first ex-wife.
Because the algorithm.
His first ex-wife still is Susan Sarandon.
Oh.
Yeah. That's where she got the name from. She got the name. Even when she got remarried and stuff. Yeah, and very interesting fact, because we find out really soon in this episode that his character is an El-Orian. Stephen, have you heard the term El-Orian before?
I've heard of DeLorean, but not.
Huh.
Keith, do you know what famous Star Trek character is an El-Orian?
It sounds familiar, but I can't think of why yet.
Guinan is an El-Orian.
Oh,
this
wow.
is the first, but in a little bit of research, this is the first time the species name has been mentioned on Star Trek. And the reason they mentioned in this episode is originally they asked Whoopi Goldberg to be in this episode, and he was her son. And when she became unavailable for the episode, it's his character, and dropped the reference to Guinan, kept him as the species, and they didn't remove the line. We're going to get, I don't know if it's a Next Gen Season 7, but definitely in the first Next Gen film, Star Trek Generations, they mentioned that Guinan is an El-Orian, as well as Malcolm McDowell's character, who we'll meet. So that race, they already knew what it was. They just did not establish it in canon yet. So I was just, I'm so sad that Whoopi was not in this episode, but this would have been her son, which kind of makes sense because she did say she had a son that wouldn't listen and was troubled. So I assume this is that. She mentioned that in an earlier episode. So I assume this is that son. Anyway, that whole conversation where he's with the widow, he's definitely playing her. You can tell immediately. Yeah. You feel bad for our old lady being taken in by a scam, even though I love the twist later, but we'll get to that. And so Odo arrests him because Odo doesn't need much reason to arrest people. He doesn't need legal precedent. He just needs to feel like he should.
Yeah,
he does end up having a reason. He does end up having a charge.
He's arrested.
At the same time, when he arrests him, he doesn't read him his Miranda rights. He just says, "Yeah, no, I feel like arresting you."
Wikipedia said he was arrested for swindling.
Yeah, which does make me think he belongs in like a 1960s Disney live action movie. But okay, he belongs in Pete's Dragon or something.
God,
yeah, that's
needs a hat.
So we could go to O'Brien. Going to his racquetball court where Julian Bashir is in his court. How dare he? And that whole little thing where Julian's like, well, she wanted an opponent to play. I can see by the lines you go by old rules. And the breath, old rule. And Julian's like, I like old rules. That's the way I'm saying. That was not an insult. O'Brien's way too quick to get angry here. Bashir is not at all annoying in this episode. This is actually like a good Bashir the way I like Bashir. Yeah. Where he is humble and he sticks his foot in his mouth, but he's not trying to. He's trying to just be a good person and win O'Brien over.
Right.
What about his outfit? Is that annoying?
Nope.
Yeah, but all of those Star Trek jumpsuits are annoying. I'm so glad I never had to wear one.
It did create kind of a...
Shut up, kid.
He just made Bashir look even skinnier than he already is. It's just like, oh, okay, he's skinny, and O'Brien going on and on about how out of shape he is and everything.
I guess that is kind of the point, and I thought about that later in one of the O'Brien outfits. I don't know if you did the theme song for the
fashion.
Yeah. It looked like he was wearing. It looked like he was from like out of Seinfeld or something, like one of those kinds of just regular short sleeve shirts from the 80s or 90s, like a polo shirt, like long sleeve and shorts. I'm like, how can they play him? And
I noticed when O'Brien was shirtless, we didn't see his belly. We only saw his chest region of his house. Because I was looking, because I was like, how much more out of shape is he than me? Because I feel like my lower weight, I have a similar body type, perhaps, but I couldn't tell because I couldn't see his stomach.
Yeah.
It's in his contract.
I did enjoy.
Most likely he's in better shape than I am. I'm not.
Later when Bashir is like, I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
Now that would not be me, but yeah.
And I ran at lunch today, and at one point, I think it was when I first started running today, because I ran up a hill to start. And I was like, okay, I feel you right now, O'Brien. I feel you. I'm like, Bashir, I hope you're doing fine. There might be a heart attack happening here. But,
and Bashir would help you. We know that.
He would. So. He would, yeah. So
when they throw Martis in the jail cell, he's with this old alien that never comes back around. I almost feel like he was the magical man tricking him into a curse. That's the way that character came.
I thought it was, yeah, it was very Twilight Zone. And I thought it was going to go like the game, which it kind of did go a little bit of the game TNG. But yeah, it was very Twilight Zone. Yeah. Now that I think about it, at least that little part. And I liked his makeup. And that guy, I can't remember the guy's name here, but he was a good character actor too.
I don't know, but yeah, he was
Albert Henderson.
Oh, okay. That's him. He doesn't have IMDb. He played Koss. Yeah, he's best known for Leaving Las Vegas, Serpico, Coogan's Bluff, and this episode, Deep Space Nine. Yeah. Did not survive. Oh, well, he did die until 2004, but he stopped acting in 1995, just after this role. He only has a couple credits after this role. So it was a weird scene. It was a scene that didn't necessarily fit in the world, but it got plot moving, I guess, where that guy dies. And the Elorian, who was a race of listeners, which makes sense because Guyan's definitely a listener, was not listening to him until he said something that caught his attention. Which is, Martis is a bad Elorian. I'm just going to say it. The other Elorians I know are much better Elorians than him. O'Brien, when he returns back to his quarters after the match with Bashir, where Bashir wipes the floor with O'Brien, even though Bashir keeps trying him out and O'Brien doesn't let him. Soaked in sweat, and he immediately leans back and puts his head on the fabric couch. It must take such self-control for Keiko not to be like, get your freaking head off my couch, because I would be like, get that sweat off of my couch. That's disgusting. Put down a towel first, at least. Yeah. And Keiko's doesn't seem to care at all. It bothered the heck out of me.
I had the same reaction, not to keep talking about my athletic exploits, but when I leave home, if I go for a run, I put a towel wherever I'm going to sit. If I'm going to sit when I get back, I put it sometimes too. Cause like, yeah, when he sat down, I'm like, what are you doing? And Keiko was like, it's cool. It's fine. And I was like, are you not?
Rare I would sit in the living room while I'm sweaty before I've taken a shower, but I would bring it in like a dining room chair and sit on it rather than sit on the couch.
Yeah.
There's going to be some sort of futuristic technique by then.
You know what? Maybe the couch is self-cleaning. Maybe you're right.
Something like that. They could beam the sweat out of it or something, or replicate something else. Or I don't know.
You're probably right, but it bothered me.
Yeah.
From there, we go to Bashir and Dax having lunch. What a delightful scene, because he's finally stopped creeping on her, and they're actually have become friends, and they're having an actual friendly conversation, and it's not fixed the first season and a half, but this is the relationship I remember them having. So that first season and a half where he was being such a creeper was so frustrating to me, and I'm glad that they're past that and they're here. Although there was some really weird stage business where he was going up and checking the bottles at every table to put it on a sandwich. And then I don't know if you guys bumped on this, but the fact that he finally got on a sandwich and then he did not even take a bite bothered me.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yes. I thought he was looking for salt. And then when ketchup came out, I thought that's kind of a funny bit. They went to 3 different places and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. I don't like ketchup, but it made sense. I'm like, yeah, of course there'd be ketchup out. But I was with you, Jim. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, I get from an actor's perspective, you don't want to take the bite because you're going to do 20 takes of that scene.
Right.
But from a watcher's perspective, when you go to that much trouble, you got to see him take a bite.
There is my school of directing, and Seinfeld did too, which is, it's very relatable. If you're watching, you're like, oh, that guy's eating. I eat. That's relatable. But I guess he probably got close enough for that I was completely engaged with what he was doing. Maybe it didn't matter what he was talking about, but I was definitely following his every move. That's for sure. So, but him not taking a bite of that was very unsatisfying. Was it a burger? We don't even know, because it was like sourdough bread, maybe. And honestly, as much as it's
totally socially acceptable to go ask the other table if he can borrow their ketchup. If it were me, and this is probably my preference for not talking to people when I don't have to, I just take the bottle to the replicator and have the replicator refill the bottle.
Right.
That seemed an easier version than going to 3 different tables looking for.
That's what I thought he was going to do when he first got up, actually.
I know, me too. And I've seen this before, and I still thought it. So Martis is not a very good Ferengi or businessman, I guess, or just didn't think the gambling machines were worth his time, because instead of first trying to open his own club, he first offers to sell the machines to Quark. And it's only when Quark refuses that he opens the rival club.
Right.
Which, first of all, they built that club really quick. But second of all, when we saw them going in and behind the door was a flat wall, so they had to go in and turn immediately, my thinking was, oh, they just didn't want to spend the budget building it. I was like, okay, so they didn't want to spend the budget building it within the existing set. They built it as a second set. But still, I still thought that was kind of a fun... I don't know. There were a number of things in this episode that took me out of the story and into the production side. That's not a good thing.
I went there too, Jimmy, at first. And then I explained it away that, like, well, maybe Roanna, was that Barbara Boston's character? That she already had the shop, so maybe she had that. But even then, they still... all the refurbishing and everything was very quick.
Yeah, Roanna, you mentioned, played by Barbara Boston, was the wealthy Bajoran. She's best known for Hill Street Blues, where she did 103 episodes. The Last Starfighter, Murder One, and of course, Pop Rock.
Yeah, because she was married to Stephen Bochco, who created Hill Street Blues and Cop Rock. And
I swear we're still going to do a special episode on Cop Rock. It's come up way too often to not.
We have to. And I saw Barbara Boston's name, and I thought of Barbara Babcock, who was a TOS, but was also on Hill Street Blues. They might have, I know Barbara Boston was nominated for 5 straight Emmys. I read that. But I think Barbara Babcock might have won some Emmys. But I watched Hill Street Blues religiously when it first started. So that'll show my age. But also a great show, groundbreaking show. And so
Barbara Boston was also in 2 episodes of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, since we're talking about that this week.
There you go. Yeah. So, but
she was in the movie.
She was great on them.
She was in the movie Capricorn 1, which I remember very vividly. It was an O.J. Simpson film.
Oh, yeah.
Not the first plan.
It's about Kubrick making the space landing, yeah.
Yeah. Hal Holbrook, Sam Waterston, James Brolin, Elliot Gould, so many people. She was in that as well. I saw that movie as a kid and enjoyed it, watched it several times. Yeah. Before, I knew OJ was a murderer, or maybe it was before he actually did the murder. I don't remember.
We're still looking.
Well, if the glove don't fit, you must have quit. O'Brien's mad when Bashir lets him win. That's obviously, you don't do that, dude. As much as he wants to spare his feelings, no.
And be better at it if you're going to throw it. Whether your plan is to double the bet, either way, just, be a better actor. But I did like that O'Brien was just like, I'm going to be madder if you just do this than if you just beat the crap out of me. And I agree with him.
Miles O'Brien definitely has pride. That's for sure. The next scene we have is Sisko talking to Quark, where Quark's complaining that Sisko won't enforce his exclusivity contract on gambling on the station because that wasn't in the Cardassians, which basically Quark has to try, but of course Sisko won't enforce it. But the thing I really loved about that episode, or that scene, was we got to see them get on the turbolift on the promenade, ride it down a floor, and get off the turbolift, even though I really wish they'd just taken the stair. Well, if I were them, I would just take the stairs because it seems stupid to ride an elevator for 1 floor. But at the same time, it tickled me because we hadn't seen that before. And it was a nice, yes, the promenade is wheelchair accessible. And now we know this for certain. Again, I was taken out of the moment. It's all these things that take me out, but I loved it. I wish we saw that often enough that it didn't take me out of the moment.
Yeah.
We normally see him go down the stairs, which makes sense. El-Orient at this point, that Martis now hires Rom and gives him a 25% ownership stake, which is how you know he's definitely not a Ferengi if he's giving him that kind of ownership. And is Rom really worth that much? I don't think so. At least not at this point.
Yeah, I just felt like it was just to annoy Quark, which that part I enjoyed. That made me laugh.
Yeah, but swindlers are usually concerned about the payout. I guess he was so confident his payout was going to be so big that he could afford to waste a little annoying Quark.
Well, maybe the probabilities thing was already affecting him at that point. So
then we got Alzia, Kay Callan's character, coming back to ask him for money again. And at this point, when she asks him for money again and he gives her the box, at this point, this is when I knew she was swindling him. Like I was, this is definitely, she's a compliment too.
Yeah.
Which she offers it 10 times the return. Which, first of all, Quark would have been too suspicious to take it. And he says she offered it to him and he turned her down, which, of course, he did. But yeah, I was like, yeah, Martis deserves what he gets. Go for it, Kay Callan.
Well, and does he say it, or maybe I read it, that because of the probability thing, that's the only reason he was like, yeah, this makes sense. I'm in. Yeah, so.
Probability thing gives you a lot of questions. For instance, we could argue that maybe Bashir and O'Brien are actually evenly matched at racquetball, and it was the probability thing the whole time.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's probability thing just makes it all stupid.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah. He did not like at all Martis sucking up to Barbara Boston's character, Rhoda. The whole like fake romance thing. And then he was like, with the Dabo girl. That part seemed unnecessary and really stupid to me.
Well, not one. Yeah. She's just newly widowed, right?
Yeah.
And then he moves in and she's like, all right, well, I saw like, to me, it was like, well, I am a widow. Like, again, maybe she's swindling him, but then whatever. And then
it seemed like that was an engagement earring he bought her.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then the Dabo girl, played by Sandra Wilde,
who was one of Riker's arm candy girls in the Q episode of Next Gen.
Yes, I was going to mention that. I had forgot. And the dress she wears, and to go back to last week, the dress she wears in the Q episode is the one that Kira and Hanik did not like last week. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
What a great Easter egg.
Yeah.
I really liked the dress she was wearing.
Just read that.
That's funny.
Yeah, which is great. And I feel like I picked Sandra Wilde to have a drink with that episode. So obviously she wore the dress, and actually I just saw a picture. She made it work. As Mr. Tim.
This is a time I wish we had Megan on here or another woman to provide the female perspective.
Yeah. The dress that Sandra Wilde wears in this episode, Bill Teese, he definitely was doffing his cap, because
whatever the opposite of rolling in your grave is.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is perv level freeze framing, but also fashion freeze framing. When she and Sarandon leave, I'm like, what is the cut on that dress? And I was like, well, maybe there is a layer of skin colored, fabric underneath there, but up top it definitely wasn't, because you could see cleavage and everything. But I think on the back, the fabric was covering, for lack of a better term, her crack, but still showing part of her buttocks. And I'm like, that is impressive. But it was very fleeting. So kudos to whoever did the fashion on this episode, and Sandra Wilde. She wore
the editing.
The editing was very well done. Like, but yeah. So the censor was like, you can get away with it, but you got to cut it here. Oh, I also liked her bumpets. I feel like I don't know when bumpet started, but she had the weird bumpet accessory on her for her hair. So at first I thought it was like 4 different things, and then it just looked like she had a birthday cake in there. It was just one piece. So I enjoyed that as well. That's my other fashion note. So, but they didn't give her a line, so it was one of those things like, show up, look pretty. We're not going to pay you to talk, though. I don't think she had a line. Did she? I don't think she said
that's
anything.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, I'm with you, Jimmy. Just to bring it all the way back to where you started, it's like, this doesn't make sense that he would blow his. But then again, the probabilities may have been acting on him, but it doesn't make sense. Why would he be that obvious about it and stupid about it? But
Dex at this point, Dex found the program that she'd been looking for, which feels really lucky, apparently, and that's when we know that the luck magic is spreading.
Mm-hmm.
Quark tries to listen to O'Brien because he's an opposite of Guinan. He does not listen to his customers. And he gets, of course, he's successful at listening for all of 5 seconds before he gets a scheme and starts to enact it. I love Quark. Like, he's awful, but I love him. We get all the bad luck stories. Do not get, though, another thing to nail the episode. Kira said she'd been working on a report for weeks, and she lost the report and all the backups.
Yeah.
I'm going to save on my computer now. I'm sorry.
I had the same reaction. What report is taking you weeks and you're not backing up?
Sure, Microsoft Word existed in 1994, and I'm pretty sure it had autosave then, even if it wasn't that often.
So I guess bumpets actually didn't come a thing till 2008.
Ahead of their time.
This may have, they're ahead of their time. Also, you guys may not know it, but as of August 2022, the question was, are bumpets making a comeback? So they're back. Huh. I thought they were gone longer than that. But anyway, back to Star Trek.
Man, there's a fad in this millennia that's already come and gone and come back. Man. Quark tricking O'Brien and Bashir into competing by bringing in the orphans was chef's kiss. Just the blankets. The only problem I had with that, and again, taking me out of the moment, is can't they just replicate however many blankets the orphans need?
Yes. Yeah, I thought in a vacuum that's hilarious. And if you're really just winking it, but I think it's hard to treat it seriously.
The world of replicators.
Yeah, or at least I feel like maybe there's a better way to reach the same kind of joke or gag or whatever that still works. The victims of the recent such and such tragedy. Maybe that's too dark, or maybe it's funny. But because I feel like O'Brien Bashir would see through this guy doing it. But if I thought if you're, and obviously I'm not coming up with one either, but I'm also not a writer for a television show, but I feel like there's a way they could have found another way to still land that joke or do that joke, but make it believable in this reality. So,
because even if replicators they don't have as many as they want or need, that makes sense. Blankets for orphans seem pretty high up on the priority list to replicate. And also such a small number that O'Brien could be like, I'll replicate them for you. It's just, okay.
Well,
I was going to say that
it's just the idea that sports gambling wasn't a thing anymore, which is hard to believe too. But sorry.
Well, it wasn't a thing, and now it's back. It was making a comeback.
Well, probably one of the simplest explanations, though probably the least funny, is that maybe that was supposed to be the joke, that they're winking so hard that they're even picking something that wouldn't be plausible within that reality for those reasons. Or did they mention something about having like replicator rations or something at some point? Is that there certainly seem to be some...
That's Voyager, where they have replicator rations. Okay. Their resources are more limited.
Rations, yes, but there was it seemed like there was some sort of commodity, something that was wrong, or some sort of access, like earlier on in the series where Quark had to sneak to get a different replicator to get certain things working correctly or something like that.
Oh, that's when things were breaking down all over the station. O'Brien only had time to fix so much. So he prioritized certain replicators over other replicators, but they still had replicators.
Right.
So at this point, Martis turns on Rom and snaps at him. The Dabo girl does not react in that scene. Like, all this stuff is going down in front of her, and she just stands there stone-faced the whole time, which feels really weird.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Because I
knew when Martis gave the box of money to K. Callan and then immediately lost in the machine, you knew his money was gone. For sure, if you didn't know before.
Yeah.
Then we get the scene where Keiko's really a supportive wife, and she's like, we're going to celebrate either way, but also you're going to kick his butt, blah, blah, blah.
I wrote
a lot of character for her. I like it.
I wrote down cute Keiko O'Brien. I was like, all right, I want more of this. I'll probably never get it again.
Honestly, I think I like it better when she's mean to him, and maybe that's personal preference, but seems less realistic to me when she acts like fake nice. Maybe she just really wanted to get some tonight, so she decided to be nice to him. That would make sense, actually. Get some dinner, obviously.
Yeah.
We're a family-rated podcast. Quark manipulates Bashir was trying to manipulate Bashir into taking a dive, and I think Quark almost had him until he went too far. With the trying to spike his drink. Quark just kept talking. If he had stopped earlier, I think Bashir would have taken the fall. But then I liked Bashir being like, you're going to pay for those blankets either way. So
I wrote this down, and I don't know. I feel like it was about the racquetball thing, but it might have been about Quark and Martis. Who do you root for? Who do you root against? Both? Do you root for both of them to lose, both of them to win? I don't know.
I'm sorry, you root for Quark. As for despite his flaws, she's still for Quark. And in this case, with Bashir and O'Brien, you have to root for O'Brien because it's the underdog and because it gets the blankets.
Yeah. All right.
Max finds the spinning neutrinos. The only good part of that was her and Cisco phasering those gambling machines. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then Cisco can't charge Martis, but Odo can, and here he comes in. Bashir and O'Brien actual tournament where O'Brien's kicking his butt and he pulls the plug on the TV and they talk about it and they test the toast. I really appreciated that because that can very easily have been in imploding or an ego scene or something of the two of them where he accuses Bashir of taking it easy, but instead it's just like, hey, there's an issue. I recognize it. Okay, we're on the same page. We're going to solve this issue. And they both put that ahead of the tournament, and I loved it. I loved that part of it. It's very normal and banal and menial, but it really helps the characters and the episode that it's treated that way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I like something Dax says. It's a little Godfather too. Bashir said, nobody can be that lucky. It's impossible. And she says, not impossible, just extremely improbable. And then we kind of get into the explanation, but which Michael Corleone says near the end of Godfather Part 2, when Tom Hagen says, that's impossible. We couldn't get near him. If history has taught us anything, it said nothing is impossible. Difficult, not impossible. Actually, Corleone doesn't say that. Actually, Alan Neary says that. I think it's Alan Neary. I might be mushing up names and actors and characters. But anyway, Godfather 2. Difficult, not impossible, which is what I heard. That's what I heard Dax saying. Oh, this is one other note. This is my last note. Because we already talked about Kate O'Brien not fighting.
My alternate episode, I wish it was more about Bashir and O'Brien's friendship, and that was the A plot instead of this thing. If we're not going to have Guinan and do this story as Guinan's screwed up son, which would have been great, then I'd lean into the Bashir O'Brien and not this rival casino thing. As much as I like Chris Sarandon, it didn't work for me.
I go the whole other way. I go with the other storyline, but I want it to be more like I wrote down Scorsese's Space Casino because I like those guys being rivals, and I would like it to get darker or more, whatever, or funnier, or both, or whatever. But yeah, if you make Bashir and O'Brien's racquetball into more fun and more, they're about them and not about. Like I do like later when Bashir's like it's hyperbolic or whatever. He's like, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I didn't want that to happen. I was really worried about him or whatever, all that stuff. Sure. But so that's what I wanted to see was, as the casinos build up and, Quark's killed people, right? We've seen him do that, or he's had people kill people, right?
Perhaps.
I'm sure this Martis guy.
And I think Quark avoids violence, but I think it may have happened once or twice.
Which surprises, But
Chris Sarandon wasn't such a well-known actor. I would have liked to see the other casinos stick around and have some more plots with it, especially if that meant Whoopi became a recurring character in DS9 as well. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Now you got something.
But Chris Sarandon's too big for that, and clearly Whoopi didn't even have time to do this one episode of DS9. So I think all we got left of Whoopi is a couple of films and some Star Trek Picard episodes way down the line. Yeah. So unfortunately, we're pretty much done. He's got a relatively decent role in the first Next Gen film, because honestly, just because she was a big name, so they wanted to use her. But other than that, let's get to the rankings then, I guess I say. Who was your shady character? There's a lot to choose from in this one.
I went with the obvious one, Martis.
Me too.
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, we could choose Kay Callan, but we were all glad that she got one over on him. So.
Yeah.
I was your annoyance and rivals.
I mentioned this early on, and again, I like the relationship, but the whole storyline, the Bash O'Brien storyline. I mean, not them, but their storyline.
I'm going with Martis again for annoying. Yeah. Sorry, Chris Sarandon. I mean, I love Humperdinck, but he's also annoying, right? Like Chris Sarandon doesn't know. I love the Princess Bride. He's awful. I mean, he's great. His character, similar to this.
I'm going to say the device itself. I think that, as Stephen was saying, I think the rival casino thing could have taken off if it weren't held down by the literal device they were using to create that. I think there could have just been they almost hit it with the one-upsmanship of, Quark trying to listen, or, maybe we're trying to just something, maybe not quite that on the nose or wacky, but something, let's some sort of arms race, I guess.
Yeah, to that point, Keith, I think maybe if Quark's place hadn't been completely empty, and maybe there were just a few people there, so it was like, this is really sad, but not so dramatically like, oh, everyone's there. Because then that also lends to, well, I guess it was the probability thing, but lends to like, there's some, and I kept thinking, it's some kind of organism that's taking over things or taking over people's minds or whatever, kind of like the game and all that.
Right.
Yeah. The the other alter episode that we could go to, obviously, is Ocean's 11. But DS9 does that in season 7. They have an episode called Bada Bing, Bada Bang that is essentially Ocean's 11. I won't give you any further context, but it's one of my... It's a fun episode.
Between this and that and the Nagus, clearly these writers are Godfather fans. So, yeah.
The Bada Bing, Bada Bang is one of the standouts in a season of standout episodes. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's for a character and arc we have not been introduced to yet, so that's why I don't want to spoil it. But man, it's good. It's real good. Anyway, who are you having a drink with?
I'm going to be very base. I gotta go out with the Dabo girl in that dress, Sandra Wilde. She's 2 for 2. She's in 2 episodes. I think I picked her both times.
I'm going to go with Bashir and O'Brien. I'm already digging their buddy relationship, and I want to be in that buddy relationship, whether I'm a third wheel or whether I replace one of them. To be honest, I'm O'Brien. I'm the grumpy old man to Bashir. Well, I feel like I'm crossing from Bashir into O'Brien at the stage of my life. I feel like I'm in that transition, but I feel like I'd be friends with both of them. So
I guess we'll probably go Bashir and Dax.
That was a delightful lunch scene.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank goodness. And so needed after the first season and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Let's rank the episode. I'm just going to start against last week's Sanctuary. Better or worse than Sanctuary?
Oh, I'm going to lower.
Correct. Yes.
Now, see, I'm going to say, I said at the beginning of this podcast, this is ranked same or lower because that had some interesting elements that weren't followed up upon. But the more we talk about this one, the more I'm like, there were a lot of fun parts of this one. And I wish it had been more fun, but I kind of want to go above. I would not go any further than that because above that's rules of acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might let this edge out because I had so much fun with the Bashir O'Brien stuff and the Bashir Dax stuff and and those bits that Sanctuary was kind of a drag.
I'll also say I liked it. And the second I almost went to write it down, I liked that there wasn't there's a threat to the space station. And then eventually like, oh man, dang it. Why not just hang out with these guys and it doesn't have to be all that sort of stuff. But
I mean, the probability was kind of a threat to the space station, right? Because it was, but it was only a result of a lot of twisted ankles.
Right. We eventually got there, but yeah. But I didn't want it to.
It was twisted ankles. It wasn't the station was going to be destroyed.
Right.
That would have been much worse. Okay, gentlemen, if you want to go down, because I would put it above Sanctuary, but below Rules of Acquisition. Below Sanctuary is Second Sight.
You
remember what that is, right? Because we just
talked about it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know. That's tough. I'm kind of thinking below at the moment.
It's up to me now.
It is just how we like it.
I think I'm going to go above.
Okay, Keith, would you go below Melora?
No.
Yeah. So we're all in a pretty close range.
Yeah.
We slightly disagree.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm going to record a whole month from now. But we're doing it in person. First time in a long time. But Pegasus. It's a Next Generation episode. Riker finds out his former commander from the starship Pegasus, played by Terry O'Quinn from Lost, has orders that entail more than what is revealed to Picard, who thinks the Enterprise is en route to help recover the lost ship, and Riker is ordered to secrecy. This episode is also really famous because an episode of Star Trek Enterprise takes place during this episode. So that's why we're doing it in person, because it has meaning to the franchise as a whole. Though while I haven't seen this, I doubt very much it's going to feel all that relevant as we watch it, which is even more surprising that they revisit this episode in Enterprise in a very big, important way. But we'll get to that in many years, like 10 years. So, Pegasus, until then, live long.
And always double on 11 and prosper. And you will prosper if you always double on 11. I guarantee it. Just got to play the long game.
Wait.
I mentioned the writers of this episode real quick. I'll leave this on the podcast. Directed by David Livingston, one of our regulars. Teleplay by Joel Menosky, one of our regulars. Story by Jim Trombetta and Michael Piller. Michael Piller, the showrunner. Jim Trombetta is best known for writing for Miami Vice, just 2 episodes. 5 episodes of DS9, 1 episode of Voyager. The 5 of DS9 includes The Forsaken last season, The Rivals this season, and then 3 more coming up this season in the very short amount of time we have left. So, now prosper. Since I failed at my job. Writer director, that's part of my job. I failed.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?